Hey, it's Dr. Jade, Teta. Welcome to Metabolic Living's Immunity Upgrade Blueprint. In this lecture, we're going to be talking about how to change the diet as you go along and what an essential component this is to making and keeping progress. Seasonal change is one great way to conceptualize this idea, and we're going to learn to cycle the diet in different ways, primarily with the seasons. Now remember, the best defense is a strong immune system, and you get a strong immune system when you develop a strong metabolism, because that is what provides the energy to fuel the immune system in the first place so that it can do its job fighting microbes like bacteria and viruses. Now, one of the things we want to be aware of is how we humans evolved. Whether or not we evolved in tropical regions or regions with 4 seasons, food was not always available. It was not always guaranteed. It fluctuated with the seasons. In fact, we are perhaps built this way, and we can use many different approaches, primarily built off the seasons. We're presenting this here for you now at Metabolic Living because we want you to understand that there is no right or wrong way. It's understanding the tools. And so while you may not want to live according to the seasons, this is just illustrative of what we think is important in understanding how to toggle or change or manipulate your diet strategies for your metabolism and your immune system. We talked about this before, but some of you may have missed the previous lecture, so let's talk about it again. There's not 2 ways to approach the metabolism. There's actually 4, but let's talk about the ways that most people know. There's the eat more, exercise less approach. This is essentially the couch potato. This will make you maybe gain some muscle and gain some fat. We all know what this looks like. It's the standard Westerner who doesn't do much activity and sits on the couch and eats whatever they want. They tend to be fat and muscular. Now, you also have the opposite of that extreme, which is the dieter, the eat less, exercise more type of person. And they tend to be burning fat and muscle. And what most people do is they toggle back and forth between these two. Maybe spending 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe a few months in eat less, exercise more. And the rest of the time in eat more, exercise less. Here's the interesting thing about this. We've been told that eat more, exercise less is not good for us. And we've been told that eat less, exercise more is good for us. The fact of the matter is they are both good and bad depending on how you look at them. Eating more and exercising less in context after a period of time of maybe exercising a ton or being very athletic or going on a hike for 2 weeks can be beneficial, so long as it's not prolonged and overdone. Of course, eat less, exercise more also is not bad so long as it's not overdone. As a matter of fact, it can be a very useful tool in helping us get healthy, burn fat, and lose weight. But when these 2 things are done forever and at an extreme, what they can do is they can cause issues with sleep, hunger, mood, energy, and cravings. Isn't it funny that the chronic dieter and the chronic couch potato-er basically both have issues with hunger, energy, and cravings? They both are having their schmeck or heck be out of check. These biofeedback sensations that point towards individual responses in metabolism and stress. Now, these 2 things can be okay if they're known how to be used appropriately, but it's better to understand all 4 areas of metabolism. So, in addition to the eat more, exercise less and eat less, exercise more approaches, there's also the eat less, exercise less, and the eat more, exercise more approach. This is the sort of traditional hunter-gatherer or traditional European or traditional Western farmer. They're not exercising a ton. They are moving a lot, activities of daily living, and they're eating relatively sparsely because if you're living off the land as a hunter-gatherer, you don't get 4,000 calories in a day. You'll be lucky if you get 2,000 calories in a day. Of course, there's the eat more, exercise more approach, which is the traditional athlete approach. Lots of exercise, lots of athletic endeavors, and lots of fuel to feed that. Now, we humans had this as we went through our seasons. You can think of winter as an eat less, exercise less time. Spring as partly an eat less, exercise less time, but then and eat less, exercise more time as well. And let's think about this for a minute. In the winter, traditionally, the animals are very lean. There is no foliage, so you're essentially in a very ketogenic type of biochemistry. Very low calories, protein perhaps, but lots of very low calorie options. So this is very low calorie and not a lot of moving either. Long nights, lots of sleeping, cold weather, not a lot of moving, not a lot of food available. This is an ELEL, or eat less, exercise less approach. Now, as we come into the spring, animals begin to come out of hibernation. They start to eat. Foliage starts to grow a little bit. And so we transition into more of an eat less, exercise more approach. We're more active, but the animals aren't super fat yet. We don't have a lot of fruiting, starchy types of things out yet. And so we're eating lots of green veggies and still lean animals. And we're moving around a lot more and perhaps starting to hunt again and things like that in meaningful amounts. And so spring has this sort of atmosphere to it. Now, as summer comes along, more growth, animals fattening up, lots of activity, shorter days, so we're active for longer. This is more of an eat more, exercise more athletic approach. And then as we come into the late fall, early fall is more still EM, eat more, exercise more. But then we start getting lots of fruits, lots of starches coming around. The animals are getting fatter for winter. And we have this brief period of time where we move into an eat more, exercise less type of approach. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of these approaches, but you can see that throughout the year, ELEL and EM tend to dominate. And we've talked about the fact that these are probably the best places to live. If you're going to exercise a lot, then you want to eat to fuel that exercise, to take stress off the system. If you're not going to exercise a lot, you don't want to eat a whole lot to take stress off the system. And if you are going to do the eat less, exercise more approach, you probably don't want to do it past about 4 weeks, and you'll start to have to use willpower after about 2 weeks. If you're going to do the eat more, exercise less approach, you probably don't want to do that past about 4 days, and you're going to have to really pull back after about 7 for most people. So the idea is to understand that you certainly can toggle back and forth between these different models. Now, the other thing you need to understand is that there are certain tools that you've probably heard about that work well with certain toggles. For example, the winter toggle, the ELEL, keto diets, fasting diets, paleo diets, low-carb diets, caveman, traditional European type approach works well here. In the spring, the ELEL and ELEM works good. This is where detoxes work well, paleo diets work well, moderate carbohydrate diets, and the dieter mentality works well. Coming into the summer months, EM, higher carb, athletic type protocols, more activity. And then in the autumn or the fall, we move into higher carb diets, couch potato type approach. Now, what might this look like for somebody if they were going to live this lifestyle? Well, it can certainly look a lot like using 4 of these. And so I'll give you an example. Let's say you are a busy businessman or woman, and during the week you are crazy busy doing what you need to do. Maybe you travel a lot and you're just too caught up in work. And so you decide, I'm going to do an ELEL type approach. I'm not exercising a lot. I am moving a little bit, but I'm not going to eat much during the week. Just too busy, and I'm just going to use that ELEL time. And then maybe during the weekend, where you have lots of time and your calories go up, you decide you're going to exercise at that point in time. Maybe you do some weight training, maybe go for long runs. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you exercise and you eat more. That would be more of an EM type approach. And you toggle back and forth between these two throughout your life. And then winter comes along and you go visit family, maybe in a cold environment up north, maybe in Canada or New York City or someplace like that. It's cold, you're away from your gym. You spend a week maybe eating more, drinking alcohol, hanging out with family, not exercising. But that's not a problem because you're only doing that eat more, exercise less for a little bit of time. Then maybe when spring rolls around or something like that, you go for a vacation. And on vacation, you're parasailing and hiking and biking and rock climbing and doing all the things. And you're not eating that much. And so you're in an eat less, exercise more state for a little bit of time. But that's not a problem because you are not going to be doing that forever. So you're living in this eat less, exercise less, eat more, exercise more state. And then every once in a while, you use these other toggles to your liking. Now, of course, we presented this whole idea of doing it with the seasons, but you can do this weekday versus weekend, Women can do this with their cycle. 2 weeks, first 2 weeks of the cycle are really good for an eat more, exercise more time, since estrogen is dominating and allows women to handle more training and more calories at that time. And eat less, exercise less might be great as you move up towards in and around menses, because you're a little bit more stress sensitive at that time and a little bit more sensitive to gaining weight with calories. There's many different ways to do this, but the point is you want to realize that your metabolism is not static, it's changeable. You want to use all 4 of these toggles to your advantage, and you don't want to see any of them as good or bad. One of the worst things you can do, though, is remain in the eat more, exercise less, or the eat less, exercise more toggle for far too long. We've discussed how that can be a problem. So the key takeaways today are: understand how our ancestors lived, understand how you can manipulate these 4 toggles, and understand how you can build them into your lifestyle. All right, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, you can still join and access all the materials over at metabolicliving.com. We've got immune strengthening workouts, meal plans, and recipes there. It doesn't matter what your nutrition lifestyle of choice is. If you've enjoyed this, please share with as many people as you can. And don't forget to follow us at Metabolic Living on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Remember, we're all in this together. Let's boost the metabolism, strengthen the immune system, and flatten the curve together. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you at the next lecture.